Good afternoon and welcome to IHA's Webinar Wednesday. And today's webinar will be with Penny Rosema, What's Cooking? Our guest speaker, Penny, she is the Managing Director of the Cookware Manufacturers Association. The CMA is a not-for-profit trade association owned by its membership, manufacturers of cookware, bakeware, and kitchenware with substantial operations and headquarters in the United States. The CMA helps develop engineering standards for the industry, disseminates information to consumers, retailers, and manufacturers, and offers forums for members to learn about the latest advances in manufacturing, retailing, distribution, and materials. Today, Penny will walk us through a look at the leading trends in cookware, discuss what is new in the category and changes in retail channels, and look at how the category is performing. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Penny.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate that. And hello to all our listeners. I'm glad you joined us today. We're going to go through the information as Jenny just described it and talk about what's cooking in cookware and bakeware. And I got to make sure I can get my screen forwarded here. Hold on, Jenny. Why isn't it going? There we go. I found it. Sorry about that, folks. She introduced me. I have a slide here to just give you some information about my manufacturing experience and product development experience and a little bit about my education. We always like to remind everyone that these PowerPoint slides will be available afterwards. I'll work with Jenny and get these out to everyone that signed up for this webinar, whether you watch it recorded or live. And in there you will receive, we like to remind you of what our mission is, who we are, and what's important to us, and that is the manufacturers, the retailers, and the consumers. And we try and service all three sectors and provide information of education and just communication on what's going on in the world of cookware and bakeware. Quick example of some of the brands you may know that are members of the Cookware Manufacturers Association. A little bit about the market intelligence and the research that we do. The Cookware Manufacturers Association has been gathering information and statistics for more than 87 years. In fact, there's a number of different podcasts on our cookware.org website, and the most recent one is with a history of CMA. So if there's anybody out there from members or consumers even, or the retailers that are interested in how we came about, a nice podcast on the history of the Cookware Association. In that history, our members have been reporting shipments, and then we also monitor the import and export records for cookware and bakeware. We also, keep a track of what's going on in the market. We're not just a one portion of the market. We can't watch it all as I'm flipping through this stutter here. Apologies for people. All right, let's talk about cookware in general. The numbers that you will see at the top are 2018 versus 2016. We're not able to collect the data in 2017 for the overall total market like we do for this part of this data, so it's comparing it to 16. The year-to-date information is versus 2018. So cookware in general, in 2018 there was $2.43 billion in cookware, and that was up 4% from 2016. And then in 2019, that's through September, cookware, the whole category, is up 2.5%. When we talk about aluminum cookware, it's up from the previous, the comparison from 2016 to 2018. That category is $1.46 billion in 2018, so that's the full 12 months. And in 2019, year to date, it is up 7.6% versus last year. When we look at the stainless steel cookware category, that's a $568 million category. It was up in 2018, and year to date, from 2018, it is down by a little over 5%. So in short, if you talk about the aluminum category, so we're talking just aluminum here, generally speaking, it's up 7.6%. And if we break it out by different categories, you've got the thicker gauge colored aluminum and the less than 8 gauge colored aluminum. Both of those are up significantly in the thicker gauge. The stainless steel category for 2019, year to date overall, is down by 5%. Multi-ply stainless steel is down 7%, a little over 7%. Fabricated bottoms are basically flat, down just slightly. And the single wall stainless steel year to date for 2019 is down by 1.7%. If we talk about cast iron, porcelain on steel, and copper, and I want to remind everybody, this is a conglomerate of that whole category. We do not separate out by cast iron alone, and cast iron is doing well. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that this is a conglomerate of cast iron, porcelain, and steel and copper. Porcelain on steel and copper. From 2018, it's a category of 372 million. Year to date in 2019, overall, that category is down by 4.4%. If we look at the bakeware category, in 2018, it was down slightly by 2%, but year to date in 2019, bakeware is doing very well through September, up 15.4%. Tea kettles, we keep track of the tea kettle sales. That is a $37.1 million category. It was up in 2018 by 6%. In 2019, it's up by 5%. We check the shipments, work with the U.S. government, would be census.gov website, and download all of the information on the import-exports for both cookware and bakeware. And the imported cookware shipments for 2019 over 2018 for 6 months were up by 2.5% in dollars. They were down by 14% in units. And the average price was down by 3%. Of course, the trade agreements, tariffs, and the retaliatory tariffs are all having pricing pressures and adding uncertainty to the industry. These tariffs and trade tensions, the trade relationships with China, I'm certain will have a long-term impact on our industry. Where that's going for sure right now, we don't know for certain, but we continue to keep a watch on it. And those members of Cookware Manufacturers Association have a strong beat on what's going on. We bring in speakers to both our fall and our spring meetings that have experience and information on what's going on with the tariffs. We have speakers on podcast, and we also do webinars on this information. So if you are in that industry and want to stay closer to what's happening with it, highly recommend you check us out. We like to talk about consumer preferences in this webinar and give you an idea what's out there, what's happening in these categories. So for the aluminum cookware, year to date, 80% of the aluminum cookware, 87% of the aluminum cookware is non-stick coated. Aluminum cookware with a polished exterior is 7% of the market. Anodized aluminum is 35.5% of the market. And the colored exterior aluminum is 57.5%. When we look at stainless steel cookware, single wall is the smallest portion of the stainless steel cookware market. Fabricated bottoms are at 31.2%. And multi-ply, anything from 3 to 9 ply stainless steel cookware, is 66.7% of the stainless steel cookware market. We like to share with you information about what are the most popular categories in bakeware, from cakes and pans all the way down to what we call the category of meat and roasters. There's your breakdown of the popularity of the bakeware for 2018. Next in the webinar, we like to talk about the factors that drive demand. So there are 5 factors that the Cookware Manufacturing Association have been tracking for quite some time, and they are indicators for what's going to happen with cookware and bakeware category. Those 5 areas are new household formation, so you talk about marriages, divorces, and graduations, new home construction, substantial remodeling, general economic indicators, and we'll go into all of this in the next few slides, and then also entertaining. So those 5 areas are economic indicators that help us understand what you can expect to happen with the cookware and bakeware category. Let's first talk about new household formation. There are approximately 123.1 million households in the US. The Census Bureau is projecting that that's going to increase new households by 1.4 to 1.5 million each year, and it has done so in the past few years. The change in the households are also, the dynamics of that household are changing, which affects the size of it. Parents are staying in the home with children, adult children are staying in the home with parents, people are taking in roommates, and there are also the phenomenon of people including boarders, that, renting out an extra room in their home. And then, of course, related to new home formation, millennials are on track to overtake our boomers as the largest generation. No news there. I think everybody's been talking about that for quite some time. So let's talk about new home construction, another factor that drives demand. In 2019, there were 918,000 new residential units. That's 4.3% higher than it was in September of 2018. And the median price of a new single family home is $299,000 and some change. Another factor that drives demand and impacts cookware is residential remodeling, which has an increase of 3.4% and is forecasted to be 2% in 2020, and with positive growth through 2021. So you're kind of seeing a rhythm here of some positive impact to economic indicators that influence these categories. The next category that we have that influences it is just our general economic trends. We're going to talk about and show you some graphs on where consumer confidence is, what's happening in employment and unemployment, and I don't think that's going to be any surprise to anyone. And then what happens with holiday spending and what to watch for in this holiday season. We start with consumer confidence, and you can see I've got a chart here from the last 9-10 years. This comes from the University of Michigan. They do a consumer sentiment, and it continues to drift high. There's definitely a trend of going up. Good news for our categories. The unemployment rate is at a very, if it's not the all-time low, it's a very low at 3.5%. Now, why that matters is when you have unemployment, it can hit 2 different ways, right? When there's uncertainty about employment, they might eat out less, and when there's low unemployment, they might have more confidence and do more outside dining, eating at restaurants. However, this one, it gets kind of dicey. It can go either direction, in that there's more disposable income and people are, remodeling, and they're doing things at home where they want to invite and entertain. And we're seeing some of that going on with this economy right now. People are excited. We're going to talk about what we're basing that on here in a little bit. So the unemployment rate can kind of go both ways, is what the point is for these slides, but we still do track it. As we mentioned, the 5th of the economic indicators that we follow is holidays and holiday shopping, and there's some positive indicators. The National Retail Federation does a survey. In the slides that we'll send back to you, there is all of these links are active, and you'll be able to click back to these surveys and get more information if you'd like. But they are predicting $1,047.83 an average spend for the holiday season. That's up by 4%. And the outlook is good. Now, we do have to mention there are 6 fewer shopping days. If you look at where Thanksgiving falls this year, it's always the 4th Thursday, but it's right on the 28th of the month. So there, you're gonna lose some shopping days. Your Black Friday and all that big push for shopping happens 6 days later in the shopping calendar. So what happens and why do we track the entertainment category? When people are doing entertaining, they're more likely to buy and expand their cookware and bakeware items in their home. So how do we track if people are doing more entertaining? It's an interesting little figure that we have here. We, for a very long time, have tracked the retail trade for beer, wine, and liquor stores. And in particular, we're very specific about what we track for California. And again, that's, people are out and buying wine and beer. If they're buying it from the liquor stores, from the retail trade stores, they're using it for home entertainment, and then that correlates with the use of new cookware and bakeware products. What else drives demand? Well, you're kind of typical. I don't think you're going to find any surprises here. The cookware is worn out. They have specific needs for recipes, and they need a certain pan or a certain type of cookware. Their old cookware doesn't look good. They want to improve the look of their kitchen. They have new ranges or just flat out kitchen remodeling, which is why we track new home and the remodeling that's done in the major remodeling in the kitchen areas. When you track those 2 items, those are things that drive people to want to get new cookware. If you have a brand new kitchen and then all of a sudden you pull out those old pans, that's the first thing that you want to replace. When we talk about the cookware and bakeware consumers, there's 2 segments that we remind everyone about in the cookware category. You have those people that want to cook. It needs to be easy and convenient because they are stressed and they have a limited amount of time. There's a second segment that want to build their skills. They're exploratory. They like to try new dishes, and I would say they're in that entertainment category. So how do you address those 2 different segments? Well, the people that are focusing on time and time-saving benefits, they want tools that can help them make easy meals at home and the recipes to go with it. The people that are looking for the skill building are also looking for recipes and new ideas and what those recipes are going to look like for when they're hosting their new event. 2 different audiences, 2 different segments, opportunities in both segments to use social media and to drive interest in the cookware and brands and the type of cookware that you're selling. How often is cookware bought? This is just an amazing figure. Every 10 years, consumers will replace their cookware. Now, if you do the math here, and there's 123 million households in the U.S., and 90% of them are going to replace their cookware, you're looking at over 10 million households to replace the cookware. But the important thing about it is to think about how those dynamics has changed from people buying a complete set of cookware to open stock and mix and match, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more too. Also want to put a plug in here for the Home World business. If you don't have a subscription to their magazine and their information, I encourage you to think about it. They do, in the fall of every year, the Home World business has their annual forecast, and the 21st annual forecast came out late September or early October, I can't remember which. But on your slides down at the lower left-hand corner is a link to that annual forecast. And if you don't already have a subscription, or you have one and you haven't looked at it, you might want to pop into there because they have some interesting information. One of the things I pulled out of there was that Bakeware, they do a survey, and Bakeware respondents indicated that they replace their cookie sheets once every 5 years. Over a 5-year span, somewhere in there, they're going to replace their cookie sheets. So there's that kind of detail in the Home World business articles, and the links will be in this PDF, or you can just go to Home World Business and find the annual forecast. It's right on their homepage. Let's talk a little bit about the trends. What's going on in the categories for cookware and bakeware? So you've got health and wellness, right? There's this big desire for healthy cooking, less processed foods. Again, a little bit of a plug for CHESS, the event that's put on by International Housewares Association, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, these are the themes that I heard at that event. Health and wellness, there's an emphasis on enjoying time at home. Boundaries in age are shifting. People are living longer, they're taking better care of themselves, they care about what they eat and put in their bodies. And then also those boundaries are kind of blurring. I heard at CHESS kind of an emphasis on beware of just categorizing millennials. The things that they're looking for, lots of us are looking for. So keep that in mind. Space considerations are a trend that is causing impact and innovation in the cookware category. Everything from stackable cookware, people are downsizing, they're moving into the city, there's urbanization going on. So space considerations are, you're going to see trends in that if you haven't already. The endless aisle, we talked a little bit about that last year, but it's continuing to go on. It's that omnipresence that you talk about, where I look at something online, then I go into the store because I want to feel what it looks like, I want to touch it, I want to talk to other experts, I've done some research on it. But then maybe what I want, when we talk about whether people are buying cookware sets or whether they're buying mix and match kind of things, maybe the color that I want with that particular one piece that I want isn't in the store, but I can go right online while I'm there and order that color and that product with home delivery. So that's the idea of the endless aisle. If you're not familiar with it, Google it. Lots going on in that category. And the endless aisle, I'm hearing from a number of different resources that I'm pulling data from, is it's a must. It's not if you do it, it's a must. I'm also hearing about geofencing, and maybe others are very familiar with that, but that's a geofencing solution provider would allow marketers or advertisers to precisely choose the exact geolocation where their ads show up. So you might walk into a store and your phone would pop up with information about what those brands or products are in that particular store. So if you're not familiar with geofencing, that's another word you need to go out and do some research on. Let's talk about buy online and pick up in store. You're going to see that acronym out there, BoPIS. And what I'm hearing is there's evidence that the brick and mortar can support incremental growth from online business without hurting their in-store sales. In fact, it helps in some cases improve it. So we talked about the health and wellness. We talked about the space considerations. E-commerce is going, but you can still capture in-store sales. We talked about that with the endless aisle and meeting consumers where they're at. NPD talked about this at CHESS, being what, when, and where they want the product. Consumers, they want to feel the product, they want to experience the product. We talk about this almost every year, but just a reminder, you may be new into this area from a retailing standpoint. It's important to display the cookware outside of the box so consumers can feel the heft. They want to hold and test it. How much does it weigh? What does it feel like when I hold it? Positioning those samples at the same height as the average kitchen counters. That's a good move. And then having this omnipresence, this online product available, where it's efficient ways they can either order online and come in the store and pick it up, or they can be in the store and have it delivered to their home. And of course, whatever the method is, they want it faster. And I don't know how you can get any faster than what we're getting right now, because it seems to be, when I order things, they show up on my door, it feels like the next day. From an innovation standpoint, the key ingredient is obviously what innovations to the product, but also activities or marketing experiences, that anything that creates an experience for the consumer. They're looking for information. We talked about that before. Having a well-trained staff to prompt for and ask the right questions and have a conversation with the consumer. I know we get calls from people that'll say, hey, so what's the best cookware? And it's easy for me to respond. That's asking like, what's the best automobile? How are you going to use it? How much money do you want to spend? What are your preferences and what are your driving styles? Where are you going to drive it? So the same thing happens for the cookware category. So having a well-trained and informed staff from a retail strategy is just a great combination. Your consumer wants the tools to make that casual meal at home or for hosting that special occasion. Remember, we have two segments. Joe Derechowski from NPD would remind you, leverage for the secondary moments. The category of cookware and bakeware tend to focus on a few categories. You know, you got the holidays where that's a big Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday, but don't forget the other secondary moments that we encourage and require cookware or bakeware. The Super Bowl Sunday, Cinco de Mayo, Father's Day. Look for those alternative moments. There's opportunities there for reaching out to the consumer and building a relationship and personalizing for what's going on in their life and for increasing your sales in that category. Again, the consumer's looking for an experience, help them build their confidence. You know, good cooking is just a combination of the right tools with some techniques and the instructions, right? Remember that digitally, we're moving beyond the screen to the Alexa in the home and saying, hey, Alexa, what's the best cookware for? Or Alexa, what's a recipe for my cast iron? You know, it's a shopping experience, and there's a link here embedded if listeners would like to listen to it later, which talks more about customizing that consumer shopper experience. And I do think that's worth listening to. Keeps you current. Take a drink break here. Thank you. What matters most to the consumers? Good information here. They're interested in the material, right? The right material, the right price for how I'm cooking. Brand and appearance have not tended to be as important. Percentage-wise, they're definitely important, but percentage-wise of the reasons. Cookware turnoffs are if it sticks, if there's loose handles, if the handle gets hot, if they're hard to clean, and of course, poor cooking performance. So where does the retailer go? What's available for training in the categories of bakeware and cookware? Got to do a commercial plug here for the Cookware Manufacturers Association. We have retailer tools on our website. Here's a brief display of what those different chapters are. What's really nice about it is this is a simple, short chapters. You can download the PDF. You can just read it right online. A great resource. Highly recommend you check that out. Of course, cookware.org, our website, is another great resource. And a sample of the cookware.org website, you'll see that there is a toolbar at the top for retailer tools. We have a link for consumers, for members and buyers that are interested in the engineering standards. The Cookware Manufacturers Association is responsible for keeping the cookware and bakeware engineering standards current. And we do that on a regular basis. We have a great cross-functional team of engineers from a variety of manufacturing members. They are diligent, they are dedicated in making those standards the most current and accurate standards for the safety and manufacturability of good cookware. So that's the cookware.org website. Reference that for more information, or certainly reach out to us and we can help you too. The resources that are on that website include a guide to cookware. It's available online. Again, I'll bury the link in here when you get the PDF. The engineering standards, I always like to include a brief top-level look at the engineering standards table of contents, and remind listeners that we added a new category, a new chapter in the standards for induction cookware. Great chapter. We updated the handles chapter, chapter 3. If you're on the manufacturing side, you'll definitely want to take a look at that. It's some good information. The glass bakeware standards were added a few years ago, I believe in 2016, and those have been updated. So if you have the current PDF or hard copy of the engineering standards, it should be dated September of 2019. If you're a member, you have access to those standards free. If you're not a member and you'd like access to the standards, you can purchase them, and we have a link online for those standards. What are the other resources that you definitely should keep in your at your disposal? You've got the CHESS event, which is the Chief Housewares Executive Super Session. I attended my third one this year. They do an excellent job of bringing relevant speakers in on topics that matter and keeping you up to date on what's going on in the housewares category. Now that goes beyond just cookware and bakeware. But you know, you have to remember that these kind of events, whether it's the Housewares Show or the International Housewares Inspired Home Show, which is in the spring, March in Chicago, the networking, what you're hearing from other people is also a very important part of you know, getting information, staying current in the industry. If you're unable to attend the Housewares or the Inspired Home Show, they call it, the link here that I've included drops you right into the webinars, and they have other presentations online. So when you go to the International Housewares Show, there's lots of breakout sessions with a lot of great speakers, and most of us only have a few days. You're trying to run through the whole show. You might not be able to hit all of those speakers in those events. They record them, and they're worth listening to. So that's the link that will be on the Inspired Home Show link. I'm sorry, on the IHA presentation link. And then also Home World Business. Like I mentioned before, they have a lot of great information and forecast information. We talked about that just a minute ago. Other resources that I leverage are the NPD group. You got Joe Derek-Hauschke. He does have On Point on Home World Business website. You can listen to that. You might be able to listen to that whether you're logged in or not, you know, as a paid subscription. Every year at the CHESS event, Dana Tesley and Joe Feldman do a presentation. They do an excellent job. They also have an email newsletter that goes out. They cover the whole industry, the whole retail industry with this newsletter, but it's just filled with nuggets of information of kind of what's going on. They'll do an overview with quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. And often it is like, yeah, that's kind of what I know is going on. But they also will give, you know, updates on maybe some new information about what Target's doing, or Walmart, or Costco. So a great resource that I highly recommend. If you haven't signed up for their newsletter, you should. It's a good resource. And then of course, Joe Derek-Hauschke and the Home World Business link. There I have the embedded link, and there's an example of what is out there currently. And over here to the right, you'll see where it says Home World Forecast. That is that 2020 forecast that we mentioned earlier in the slide. So Ginny, that kind of wraps up what I had for presentation-wise. I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any questions before we wrap it up.
Okay, great. We do have quite a few questions, and just very quickly, I just want to add to Penny's resources. IHA, if you are an IHA member, we do have the most recent right now is the 2018 State of the Industry report, and it reports the micro and the macro trends and many other statistics that we have aggregated. So feel free to contact us for that as well. So moving forward, one question we do have, Penny, is there any information on PTFE coated flexible sheets, liners, or silicone baking sheets? For example, SOPAC.
I do not have anything on that, but if the listener wants to, you know, if you want to capture that email contact, I will do a little bit of research. I get a kick out of our website because it used to say, ask the expert. And my predecessor, Hugh Rushing, was just full of a wealth of information on the industry. We changed that to experts with an S because I have a very deep link with a lot of people to get information. I don't always know it off the top of my head. But if you capture that information from them, I will see what I can find for them.
Perfect. What can you tell us about how tariffs will impact the cook and bakeware market?
Well, anybody that's got a crystal ball, could probably answer that better than I can. But what I can tell you is that I know from the manufacturing side that they're actively engaged, to minimize the impact on any imported components or products that they have. And then also there's the challenge of, what's available in the steel and aluminum market, just because everyone is, the imported steel and aluminum has got the tariffs on them. So, it's putting a crunch on supply. But where tariffs are concerned, manufacturers are mitigating the cost in a number of different ways. They're, of course, actively negotiating with their suppliers. They're making adjustments to their product mix where they can. Everyone's trying to reduce organizational costs, anything that can help offset the impact of the tariffs. When it's possible, they're looking at their supply chain, right? Shifting sourcing beyond the tariff countries, especially China. And then as necessary, passing through price increases. And I know that's tough for retailers to hear, but I do want to encourage retailers to partner with the manufacturers. When you have, good, reliable manufacturers, and I can tell you that the members in our organization are doing the very best they can. And those trusted, reliable relationships are hard to replace. My role before being with the Cookware Manufacturers Association, I was a buyer for a manufacturing, not in retail, but in manufacturing. And it behooves you to maintain strong relationships. And so, work with your manufacturers wherever you can, and ask them for how they're trying to mitigate the cost changes, and then, work through it together is what my recommendations are.
Okay, moving forward, anything around trends in enameled cast iron?
I don't have trends on, specific on that right now, but that is a very good question, because we collect statistical information on the market, and we're in 2020, we're changing some of the categories of what we're collecting. And so going forward, we may have better information on that. Again, if that is someone that is a potential or an existing CMA member, Cookware Manufacturers Association member, highlight that to me, and I'll explain that further to them. For this cookware manufacturer members, we're doing a rollout through the rest of this year with webinars to our members explaining how that reporting categories are changing, and then what kind of information they will get going forward by category, and more deep dive information. So again, send me that link of that particular contact, and I'd be happy to follow up.
All right. You had mentioned additional resources. Will the PowerPoint include the links to those resources?
Yes, they will. I'm going to go back and double check it before we send it to listeners in a PDF format, but those links are direct links that flip over, because I know when I'm watching a webinar, it's always hard to I think there was a couple of those I wanted to follow up on, and we'll make sure that you have the direct links. And I just want to remind people that those IHA links on your presentation and webinars, you do an excellent job with that, Jenny. So they need to make sure they check out the speakers from the IHA events, because they're from the Innovation Theater, they're industry experts. They have some great keynotes that you guys do at the beginning of those events. And I mentioned to it now because, it would be from last March, but also to keep that, save those bookmarks. Because next March, after they get home, they're going to forget where it's at. And if you bookmark it, then you'll always know. That's what I do. I can go out and listen to those anytime. So good resources. And yes, the links will be there.
Great, thank you. You had mentioned BoPIS. I missed what the acronym stands for. Could you please reiterate that?
I sure will, Jenny. And it was not too long ago was the first time I heard it, and I thought, wait a minute. I kept trying to recreate what it means. It's buy online, pick up in store. And so you go back to that omnipresence experience, right? People have done a little bit of research at home. They, they might have been into the store, and then they're back home again, and they've nailed down exactly where they're going, what they want to buy. They buy it online, and they go in and pick it up on store. So you have, I believe, Target and Kohl's, I think, is another one that I've been reading on that are using that. And where manufacturers and brands can really leverage with that is having a strong social media presence, you know, recipes, a strong website with your brand, and just links of more information for them so that when they make that final decision, they're confident about what they, you know, where they're going with that decision on what they're buying. And then if they want to go in the store and just that one last time feel it, talk to someone that has some expertise within the store and then buy it, then they can either pick there or they can have it shipped to their home. So it can go either way, but that acronym is for buy online, pick up in store. It's a little more popular than I thought, than I had realized.
Okay, great. You had mentioned buying training, buyer training tools. Where is that link?
Yeah, that one's real easy. If you go to cookware.org, that's the main homepage. Across the top, there is a menu bar, and it's the retailer link, and it's one of the drop downs right off from the retailer link at the top of the page.
Okay, I believe that is all the questions. And on behalf of IHA, I would like to thank Penny once again for a great webinar. I just looked up, this is the 9th year that CMA has been doing this. So it's been very beneficial for our members and that we work so closely with CMA. And this will be on www.housewares.org. And I believe Penny will have it on cookware.org as well.
Right.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Penny. And once again, thank you all for joining us on Webinar Wednesday. Thank you, Penny, for a great informative webinar.
Ginny, it's always great working with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.